Thanks for joining us on the Brew here. We've been doing some research, lots of research. As you've seen, our last few episodes have covered a lot of the life and times of Volcomp. And to get all of that information, we had to do quite a bit of reading. And Nikki, you've been assigned to learn about the Lemps, and especially the Lemp family and all the history there. Can you share with us the tools that you've been using to learn about the Lemps?
Yeah. So other than obviously the internet that you can get to, 3 books have really been crucial in the research of the Lemp family. I'm going to start off with the first one I read, but honestly, the first one anybody should read. So that's Lemp, The Haunting History by Stephen Walker. He has been so kind and so forthcoming with information.
Generous with his time.
Yeah. And you actually met up with him at one of his book signings recently. Yeah,
we've got some video of that. That was around Halloween time. He was signing the newest edition of Lemp, The Haunting History. So let's cut to that. So, Matt Mizell here from Legends of Lemp. We're here at the Fortune Teller Bar with Stephen Walker, our favorite author of Lemp books. And Stephen, you have, what am I looking at here?
Well, I just happen to have some copies with me, Matt. It's called Lemp, The Haunting History. And it's the really the first book. There's another book that came out after me, but this is really the first one. I was kind of the pioneer of getting all the information together and pouring through and, oh gosh, City Hall and the coroner's office, the library, every place to find records of the family, what they did during their life, what they did after they were dead. And it's just been a passion of mine. It was about 6 years worth of research to do this till it finally came into being. It started as a hobby, but just like stamp collecting or any other hobby, it can become an obsession real quickly. So it didn't feel like work at all. It felt like a fun little hobby that I was doing. And it ended up with this. It's been a wonderful copy. It's been since 1989 it came out.
Excellent.
And it tells the story of the lives and deaths of the Lemp family.
I can say, as a researcher, Stephen's book has been the place where we start for all things Lemp. His timeline in the back of the book is invaluable if you're looking into that information and that history, and I highly recommend it. So, Stephen, I'm so glad to have met you here.
Oh, yes, thank you.
And I really wish you luck with this book launch again.
Thank you.
This relaunch of this great book.
Well, pretty much, yeah.
And in this great place, so thanks.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. Good luck.
And we're back. So, okay, so that was interesting. We went over to the Fortune Teller Bar. That was a fun place to go, actually. You should check it out.
I should.
Yep.
I haven't had a chance to yet.
Okay, and everybody should check that out. It's on Cherokee Street. And we were checking out his newest edition, and apparently there are some updates you've noticed when you read both.
So as anyone who does research, once you start showing the world what you've learned, more people come to you with information that they have. So over the 30 plus years that Stephen has been writing about the Lemp family, more images come to light, newspaper articles can come up. And so that's a lot of what's changed in here. It's just he's been able to go more in depth on certain topics and then also add in more photos. But Stephen's book is honestly the best place to start.
Yeah.
The reason for that is it's very factual. He doesn't try to fluff it up with anything extra.
Sorry.
Any like his, fiction kind of stuff. And it's honestly, I see a lot of what's in these books has been in his. So his talks a lot about the business. It goes into the family life, especially that focused around the boys that were involved in the business. I don't want to reveal too much because we haven't done the last part of our episode yet, but there's some family drama that happens that was covered a lot.
Just really deep research. I think it's it's kind of like laid out as a textbook, so very factual.
But because of that, he has this fantastic family line.
Exactly.
So it's Adam Lemp, William Lemp Sr., and then all of his kids and their spouses, and then their kids from there on. So it's been helpful for us because there's 8 kids, so sometimes it's hard to remember which one came first.
Oh, yeah, it's great.
And
Timeline here is great too.
yeah, so then the timeline here, it goes through, hold on, pause. Hi,
Oh, hi, the
Frankie.
team just showed up. Wow. That's weird timing, right when we started our book reviews for Brew. Come on over and just say hi to the folks.
We're
Literally,
recording.
we're shooting. We're not live, but you know.
We're doing Nikki's book review.
Pause.
Thanks for coming back, guys. So as we were talking about, Stephen's book has been a great resource. Also, the timeline that he put in here, it also references the Lemp family and what was going on in their lives, as well as other important things that were happening in St. Louis, like the Louisiana Purchase Exhibition, the St. Louis Zoo, when Anheuser and Busch first started brewing Budweiser is on here as well. So that's great information for us to have because it really helps to kind of round out the history.
Yeah, some nice historical context.
Yeah. All of the books do go into hauntings and ghostly stuff. I did not read those sections. I didn't want them to kind of get muddled or lost in my personal timeline. Stephen, he goes into it a little bit, but he hasn't had any personal experiences, so he doesn't really go into it at length. The second book I started was The History and Haunting of Lemp Mansion. Now, at first, it seemed a little intimidating, but as you go through it, there's lots of photos. I've been dog-earing everywhere. Lemp shows up in there. But she goes into kind of more of like a flowery, somewhat fictional side sometimes. So she talks about what people were thinking when they were doing certain actions, and obviously nobody really knows. So that's kind of hard. But where she goes into is talking about what life was like for people at that time. So how kitchens were set up, what pregnancy and raising small infants were like back then, because Julia had 8 children. So she spent a lot of time being pregnant. She also goes into a lot more of the weddings of everybody that they had. So I feel like the Lemp girls get a little bit more attention with Rebecca than with Stephen. Stephen's really focuses on the business and how that impacted St. Louis. This one kind of just is a nice general
So
one.
the history and haunting of Lemp Mansion, Rebecca F. Pittman.
Yeah, she goes into the house too, some more in that. So the Lemp Mansion she goes into.
A lot of cultural
more
stuff in
detailed.
here, a bit more narrative. Takes a little bit of liberty, but overall solid.
Yeah.
okay.
So as long as you can kind of sort through where she does take liberties, there is also where she goes into speculation on how a certain event happened on her own. So that's kind of a matter of opinion, I would say.
Okay. And then this one, Suicide and Spirits, The True Story of the Rise and Fall of the Lemp Empire by Troy Taylor.
Yeah, so I was excited about this one. This was the last one I have read through. Anything that says the true story of the rise and fall of their empire really piques my interest because as we've gone through our research and as people have hauntings and ghost stories, some things tend to go a little bit beyond the truth. And stories
It definitely muddies the historical context a lot.
Yeah.
People are searching for the paranormal, the non-mundane, and we're looking for historical fact, data if possible, pictures, things like that.
Right, yeah. So where Mr. Taylor goes through in this is that he spends a lot of time explaining the brewing industry in St. Louis. And so he talks a lot about Anheuser-Busch. He talks about Urig breweries. He talks about the cave systems because he actually went in the caves at some point. So his book is really good if you want more information. even more information culturally and business within the brewing industry. In this one, so he talks about the World's Fair and Prohibition. So he goes more in depth to kind of give you historical context on what brewing was like in St. Louis and in the world, and what major important things were happening.
Cool. So a lot of historical context, broader, international, and market kind of context.
Yeah,
Helpful.
but I will say, after reading so much through the history, I almost feel like Troy takes things almost straight from Stephen and kind of fills it in. So it seems like he went in more research on what was going on and used Stephen's research to fill in and make it.
Okay. Well, as long as he gave Stephen credit for that, that's fine. Stephen did write the Bible on the Lemps. So if you want to start there, I think we would recommend this as the starting point. Lemp, The Haunting History by Stephen P. Walker. All of these books, folks, will be linked to in the description below. And please, actually, if you are interested and you want to buy one of these, use the links in the description below. They are affiliate links, and they do help us. We get a little bit of the sale, and it goes toward this project and making these videos. So thank you for your support, and thank you, Nikki, for sharing what you've learned.
Thanks.